One of the things that happens, and I don't know if you're going to show a video of this or not, but this
Oh
is just a
yeah.
chart that I use. So basically this is our nervous system, right? So our parasympathetic nervous system. And
Yeah.
so what happens when we don't feel safe, right? When we experience trauma is we become activated. We also become activated because or we live in a constant state of activation and survival because many times our parents who are doing the best that they can live in survival mode. They
Hmm.
don't realize that that's not a healthy state and place to be in, right? So there's two different levels of activation that happen. The first one is sympathetic nervous system activation. So what happens is sympathetic nervous system activation actually affects the brain and it affects the spine, right? And where we consider our nervous system to be and what it can to control all the way down to here. So many of my first responders, right, police officers, firefighters, nurses, doctors, right, who work in like ERs and ORs and that kind of stuff, the majority of them have either issues with something in the back of their head, their atlas, TMJ with their jaw, right? They've had spinal issues, slip discs, neck replacements, right? Like cages put in their necks, spinal fusions, it goes on and on and on and on, right? Fuzzy brain, right? And so that's because the majority of them have been in that state of required activation, high mobilization, high response, right? And it's
Hmm.
probably because of the fact that that was their normal growing up. So they exceed, they excel in them. But what happens many times is that when that isn't, our body wants to regulate itself, right? It doesn't feel safe. It wants to regulate itself. So what happens is that then our body, if we can't get ourselves out of the sympathetic nervous system activation, then it goes to the dorsal vagal. So the dorsal vagal affects everything in the front. So our throat, our neck, our chest, our digestive system, our heart, our, splenic, all of the things, right? And so we do find that many times when we've had something that's been not repaired and our needs haven't been provided to us and we're not safe in a safe environment, we actually have a dorsal vagal experience, which is where we experience a lot of the IBS, colitis,
Hmm.
Crohn's, celiac, all of the autoimmune things, right? So lupus, I mean, there's like a new one coming out all the time, right?
Hmm.
So the way that we actually can help ourselves to heal is to realize that this is not a healthy state for us to be in. We're designed to have it. We're designed to survive. It's helped to keep us alive, right? But the longer that we stay in these states of activation, the deeper and the more kind of rooted the disease is, right? So it starts with a lack of coherence. Things aren't the way that they need to be, right? So for you, what you experienced, because there was no repair for the experience, you were your secret keeper for all of that time, it still lived in your physical body and also was energetically vibrating out, right?
Hmm.
So, um, and I don't mean that in the way that like then that means that you're going to continue to attract that kind of situation, because I don't necessarily believe in that. I believe we attract all of the things, but it's what we choose to say yes to, right? So addiction and things like severe eating disorders, any kind of substance use and abuse and addiction, and and it goes far beyond that. Toxic, we are addicted to toxic relationships. That was my jam, right? Like all of these things, that is a way of us trying to regulate ourselves. That's a way of us trying to circuit break the fact that we don't feel safe and we need to figure out how. And the most common thing that we can relate to at this point is that what do people do when they get angry with someone else? They pick up their
Hmm.
phone, they start to scroll, right? Or if they're in an environment where they're uncomfortable, they don't want to be there, they start to disassociate, they start to scroll, right? So it's our phones and social media have a very interesting interplay with our nervous systems, right? And so while I love them and they're wonderful because it helps us to connect and it helps us to be able to take it beyond, just the basic um, connection. But I also believe that we have to be very mindful that like, what state are we in
Mm.
when we go to that, and what do we need to do first for ourselves before we go to that thing? Because anything that's an addiction basically is, it's something that we choose to participate in and give energy to that has a negative consequence in the after effect, right?
All right. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for explaining everything. I was like, oh, wow. And you have the diagram and everything. I'm like, oh, I
Yeah.
gotta take my notes.
Yeah.
Yes. And, I still notice I have suffered from lower back pain and
Mhm.
I do a lot of stretching. I'll tell like my
Yeah.
family, I'm in pain. I said, but I'm gonna go heal myself and I'll go in my bathroom, which is quite large. It has like the closets in there and everything. So I
Yeah.
give myself my time. I'll do breathing, I'll do stretching, and I actually feel so much better afterward. And your body tells you, like I know, at least for mine, like my body lets
Yes.
me know, like, hey, girlfriend, you need to go stretch
Yeah.
right now, or shake it out, or do some jumping jacks, squats, go ahead and do some burpees as 10 more burpees. No, it's like my
Yeah.
coach. But it lets you know, and I think the body is an incredible tool. I mean, it helps us too. It helps our mind helps our body, it all is connected. So
Yeah. It's
thank you
all
so much for
connected.
sharing that. Yeah.